Driving alone at night can feel peaceful, until it doesn't. Empty roads, flickering signs. No one around for miles, or so you think. These stories aren't just about loneliness. They're about what waits in the dark. Passengers you didn't pick up, places that weren't on your route, and rides that never should have started. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more scary stories. I've always had trouble sleeping. Maybe it's the job. 12-hour nights behind the wheel, eating from gas stations, listening to people talk who think you're invisible. You start to feel like you exist on the edges of things. That night, it was raining. Hard. I remember because the wipers barely kept up, and the streets had that slick silver shine that makes every headlight stretch like a ghost. I was doing laps downtown around 2:15 a.m. when I noticed something weird. A man in a dark suit, standing at the corner of 5th and Alder. No umbrella, no motion. Just watching the street with his head slightly tilted. Didn't flag me down. Didn't move. Just stared. I turned the corner. Figured he wasn't looking for a ride. 10 minutes later, different part of the city. He was there again. Same man. Same suit. Same tilt of the head. I tried to shake it off. Thought maybe I was overtired. Just a look-alike, I told myself. But every turn I made, every block I drove, he'd be there. Standing perfectly still on the sidewalk. Not moving. Not even blinking. Always watching. I sped up. Took a shortcut through a tunnel, swerving through alleys. When I came out the other side, he was waiting. This time, closer. Right at the edge of the curb. No other cars, no other people. Just him. And then finally, he raised his hand. I didn't want to stop, but I did. I don't know why. He slid into the back seat, smooth, like he was made of water. His suit was dry, even though he'd been in the rain all night. He leaned forward and said, in a low voice, "Take me north." I asked, "North where?" He smiled in the rearview mirror, but the smile didn't touch his eyes. "You'll know when." I started driving. Didn't even think about it. It felt like a dream, or a tunnel you're falling through. The GPS stopped working. The lights on the dashboard dimmed. The city thinned out. Eventually, we were just passing old industrial buildings. Then nothing but fog and street lamps. No cars, no signs, no time. I looked at the clock. It had frozen at 3:03 a.m. "Almost there," he said from the back. I looked again in the mirror, but the back seat was empty. I swerved to a stop, heart slamming in my chest. Turned around. He was gone. Then I looked forward, and he was in the middle of the road, standing under the next street lamp, facing away from me. I don't remember putting the car in drive, but I found myself rolling forward, like something was pulling me toward him. I stopped just before the light. He turned around slowly. His eyes were pure black, not empty, reflective, like the inside of a deep, wet cave. Then he whispered, "Thank you," and vanished. No smoke, no flicker, just gone. I sat there in the cab until the sun came up. Didn't move, didn't blink. When I finally looked at the seat where he'd been, there was a card sitting there, plain black. On one side, in silver letters, "He rides with you now." On the other side, a date, tonight. Since then, every time I drive at night, the backseat feels heavier. Sometimes the radio will change by itself, to static, or a station that's not on the dial. Once a passenger asked who was already in the cab when they got in. I said, "No one." They pointed behind me and said, "He's wearing a dark suit." They didn't finish the ride. If you drive for a living, especially late at night, Don't ignore the ones who don't wave you down. If they show up more than once, you've already picked them up. And if they ever say, "Take me north," don't ask where. Just keep driving, or stop forever. It was around 2 a.m. when I saw the lights. I had been on the road for nearly 6 hours, heading back home from a wedding. 2 states over. I was exhausted, eyes dry, fingers twitching on the wheel, and I'd been on a long, empty stretch of highway that hadn't shown a single sign of life for miles. So when I saw a flickering neon open sign off a side road, I didn't question it. I was desperate. For caffeine, for gas, for anything to break the monotony. The place looked like it had been built in the 50s and never touched since. No branding, no logos, just one rusty pump, a dirty storefront window, and a bell that jingled as I pushed the door open. Inside, it smelled like mildew and gasoline. There was a man behind the counter staring right at me when I walked in. Didn't blink. Didn't speak. I grabbed a coffee from one of those ancient vending machines and walked up to pay. The guy finally said, "Long drive?" I nodded. He looked me up and down. His eyes were cloudy, like he had cataracts. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Don't open the trunk after mile marker 77. I didn't know how to respond. Just stared at him. Then he smiled, slid my coffee across the counter and added, "It'll be there. You'll want to, but don't." I left without saying a word. Back on the road, I shook it off. Just some old weirdo screwing with me. Probably gets a kick out of messing with tired drivers. But about 30 minutes later, I saw it. Mile marker 77. I passed it, and right then, I heard something. A thud from the trunk. I slowed down, rolled the windows down, listened. Another thud, and a splash, like something wet shifting around in the back. I pulled over. The road was dead quiet, just me and the crickets. I popped the trunk. At first, I didn't see anything. Then my flashlight caught it. Water, pooling inside the trunk. Impossible amounts. Sloshing. Steaming slightly in the desert air. And floating in the middle was a body. A woman. Face down. Hair drifting. I stumbled back, heart hammering, stomach twisting. She wasn't bloated or rotting. She looked fresh. Asleep. Like she'd just been placed there. And then her hand twitched. I slammed the trunk shut. Locked it. Got back in the car and drove. Fast. Didn't stop for anything. Didn't check again. But as I drove, the car felt heavier. The engine whined, and I swear I could hear water sloshing behind me, even though the windows were closed. About an hour later, I hit civilization. Stopped at a real gas station, one with fluorescent lights and other people. I got out and ran straight to the back. Popped the trunk again. Dry. Completely empty. No water. No body. Just the spare tire and jack. I didn't know if I should feel relieved or terrified. I went inside and asked the clerk if he'd ever heard of a gas station back at mile 77. He just stared at me and said, "That place burned down in the 80s. Nobody's out there anymore." I left. Didn't sleep that night. Didn't tell anyone. But 2 days later, I found something. A single strand of wet black hair on my passenger seat. And when I turned on my phone's voice recorder by accident, there was already a save file. One I hadn't made. I played it. All it said was, "You looked." So if you're ever on a long night drive and come across a gas station that doesn't have a name, keep driving. Whatever's waiting there wants to follow you home. This happened to me about 2 years ago, and it still messes with my head. I don't know if it was a blackout, a hallucination, or something worse, but I've never been the same since. I was driving back from a buddy's wedding. He lived out in the sticks, middle of nowhere, one-lane roads, no lights, except the stars and whatever your headlights catch. I had a 6-hour drive back home, left around 6 p.m., expecting to roll in around midnight. The first couple hours were fine. Music, coffee, open road. Then, I blinked, and it was 2:11 a.m. The clock on my dash had jumped. My coffee cup was empty. The gas tank had dropped by half. But the scariest part? I was still driving. Hands on the wheel. Foot on the gas. No memory of the last 5 hours. Not a second of it. And I was no longer on the highway. The road was narrower now. Trees pressed close on both sides. There were no signs. No mile markers. Just black road and a sick feeling in my stomach. I pulled over, hands shaking. I checked my phone. No signal. GPS spinning. No missed calls. No messages. I turned the car off. And for a second, just a second, there was no sound. Not the engine cooling off. Not the breeze. Not even insects. Just silence. Too complete. Then I noticed something else. The passenger seat was reclined. I always keep it upright, but now it was leaned back like someone had been sleeping in it. There was a single, long, blonde hair on the headrest. I have dark hair. I was alone the whole trip. I started panicking. I opened the glove box. My registration and insurance were gone. In their place was a folded piece of notebook paper. On it, in red ink, were 4 words. You made the trade. I had no idea what it meant. I turned the engine back on and peeled off. The road didn't feel real anymore. It didn't curve. It didn't climb. Just straight. For miles. Like it was waiting. After about 10 minutes, the radio turned itself on. Static. Then a voice broke through. But it wasn't a station. It said my name. Aaron, don't stop. You're almost here. I slammed the button. Nothing happened. The voice kept talking. We missed you. We're all waiting. Then it started laughing. Not maniacally. Just soft, breathy chuckles that went on too long. I pulled the car over again, heart racing, hands numb. And when I looked in the rearview mirror, I saw a second row behind me. Twisting. Broken. It hadn't been there before. Like I was being funneled forward, into something. I stepped out of the car and nearly screamed. Because every tree around me was identical. Same bend. Same markings on the bark. Same number of branches. A loop. I turned around and saw someone standing at the edge of the woods. Far off. Barely visible. But I swear they had my face. Just wrong. Sunken eyes. Wide smile. They didn't move. I got back in the car and floored it. After another 10 minutes, the road opened into a clearing. There was a house, run down, lights on in the windows. My radio came back to life. Home! Don't you remember? The front porch light flicked on. I should have turned around. But I didn't. I got out, walked up the steps, knocked. The door opened on its own. Inside, the house was full of photos. Me, at places I've never been. Me smiling with people I've never met. Me and a blonde woman with her head on my shoulder. My hands started shaking. Then I heard something upstairs. Running. Fast. Heavy. Too many feet. I bolted. Got back to the car. Tires spinning on the gravel. Didn't stop until I hit an actual highway. Signs again. Other cars. A gas station. It was 6:08 a.m. I checked the mileage. I'd driven over 600 miles. My tank was full again. The hair was gone. The note? Gone. And my glove box? My registration was back where it should be. I told myself I imagined it. Sleep deprivation. Mental break. But here's the part I can't explain. 3 days later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photo. Me. Standing in front of that house, smiling. Arm around a blonde woman I've never seen in my life. On the back it read, "We're all still here. Come home." If you're ever driving at night and you blink and suddenly it's hours later, check your seat, check the mirrors, and whatever you do, don't stop, because something out there wants a driver, and it already knows your name.